Super Sentai has brought us a very interesting concept that none of us really expected into episode 20 of BoonBoomger, Yesterday Once More. An episode featuring the return of Mira's ex-boyfriend showing obvious signs of toxic masculinity, and dude, when I watched this episode I was stunned to say the least, but also inspired by Mira's resilience, but also his resolve by the end, and I had to talk about it. So, here we are. Now, I know people are going to see me talk about toxic masculinity and get all hot and bothered and probably say I'm preaching as a woman and know nothing about what I'm talking about. I mean, I probably lost loads of viewers just mentioning the forbidden word. But in a weird way, I am probably in a very good place to start this talk, as I know exactly how this feels and how it affects me and others. To be honest, me being a woman in the toku genre on YouTube right here, right now, is probably the only place for me to talk about this. A reminder. Though I'm going to mention specific phrases and meanings, in the show it will be a dulled down version of it. As we all know, this is still for kids. And this might be triggering to some, so please be aware. And also, I'm not a therapist nor a psychologist. I'm just saying it as it is from my perspective. And finally, please, no meanness in the comments, as there are people who actually go through this every day or have just come out of a situation like this, and this could be quite triggering. So please be respectful. And warning, this is where it begins. Now you may be saying, don't put trauma into my kids' shows. Don't put politics in my downtime genre. Oh, and my favourite. This is just a Sentai tradition. But sometimes we need to talk about what is happening in the world. It's so clear that this episode is showing signs of a person who has lost their way and reverts to, albeit a very dulled down version of, toxic masculinity and emotional abuse. And this specifically for me as a woman watching this was incredible. Sentai is talking about some relevant topics that not only women but everyone can go through from a young age. Showing this to a younger audience as well as the money episode the week before could be seen as a bad thing, but in my opinion, it opens the conversation, and Sentai always tries to teach kids right from wrong. And with this episode specifically, it will inspire those to be brave, independent, strong, and the most important, respectful. So, let's get into the episode. We are introduced to the ex-boyfriend very early on in the episode, feeling sorry for himself, asking what he did wrong. He says they were going to go to New York together and how she suddenly left him, saying she has something she wants to do. As I said in my reaction, a woman doing something for herself? Call the police! He is putting a lot of pressure on himself and what he did wrong. Self-reflection is good, my man, but sometimes it isn't all on you. You can't be accountable for everyone's actions, just your reaction. We also have Decatrade and the other Sunseta team members say, oh, how mean of her. Yaraka even slipping up a bit and saying, oh, well, maybe she wasn't that into you. And this evokes a volatile reaction out of him, saying, that's not it, as he walks forward with hands in fists. Even when he was rejected by her at the end of the first episode, he still sees her reactions to this day as not a rejection, but that this isn't what she would say, or it wasn't her, stating that Mira was tricked by those shady BoonBoomger people. They took her from him. Here we see his denial of the breakup, not listening to what she said and her desires, a complete disregard to what she wants for herself, and this may have been a common occurrence. He blames the BoonBoomgers without even taking any accountability, because if he doesn't, who else will take the burden of this blame? Going over to Mira in this situation, that may come off as a selfish request on Mira's end, and maybe a bit irrational. But later on, this becomes a lot more apparent of who's at fault here. As he sobs, the Sunseta team realizes the connections of their situations, and Cannonball comes waltzing in, feeding his fragile and heartbroken mind the toxic mentality that Andrew Tate and so many others do to many unaware minds of our younger generations, saying if she was stolen, you need simply steal her back. The word steal, the definition, to take another person's property without permission. A person's property, you say, not even save or kidnap. Mira is now being presented as property, an object to win or steal with no regard for what they say, even though it's being told to him in the basic terms. That should be enough. A no is a no, a goodbye is a goodbye. Some people in the comments have said, are we just going to pretend that Mira didn't care about his feelings at all? The way she did it was a red flag, where she just ignored his feelings when they broke up as if they didn't matter. So she was meant to just accept it? and ignore her own feelings? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If she wanted the relationship to end, that's also her call. But I will touch on this later on, as we get more context to this point. Cannonball continues to offer his assistance, bringing to life the bowl he was just eating from. He is surprised at first, jumping back in confusion, but once he has the wheel in his hand, he goes along with the plan, and with the influence of Cannonball, goes after his lost girl, stating, "Mira, just you wait." Ew, just weird, honestly. Now, a few things. It's funny how this monster is a Japanese bowl, as with what bowl it is one that is difficult to open because of pressure. For example, like your feelings when bottling them up. Just thought that was really ironic. And my second thought for this scene, I'm not saying that he can't mourn or feel the heartbreak of a breakup, but he takes this and turns it to violence, kidnapping, and isolation. Literally. With the help of Cannonball, I will admit, but sometimes that is enough. A little push from a podcast or two, and now all women are yours to take in control. Right. Now the woman of the hour, we finally see Mira. She flops onto the sofa in complete exhaustion after her part-time work shift, stating how tired she is. However, that won't bring her down for long as BoonBoomger brings her curry. She gets a call from her boss and she sparks right back up to accept another shift for that same evening, beaming away with that wholesome smile of hers. Everyone comments on how she always smiles and works hard. They see her for her determination, her persistence, and they respect her wholeheartedly, knowing she can do it. I saw a comment on this episode where someone said that they are all like her brothers, keeping an eye on her as they watch her succeed. And this is so true. They are all equals and it's so clear. Even Chashiro watches on with worry, but also admiration to her good nature. Now for the action. The bowl monster is out terrorizing the city, calling out for Mira, which Joe thinks is weird. And it is. This is the definition of stalking in Sentai. And I'm not even going to comment on the fact he terrorized so many people just to find her. I mean, I just did. But moving on. They henshin and watching close by, Mira's ex twists the wheel to start the fight. I just realized a few things that are very ironic here as well. One, we don't even know his name really till he introduces himself later on. From the beginning of the show, the ex is introduced as the boyfriend, ironically again wanting to save her from an arranged marriage, which is how he met Taya. Even in that situation, Mira is seen as a prize, a possession that the gang family was about to marry, and was saved by not him, but Taya. And in this current situation, he is the one hiding away again, controlling the monster, getting someone else to save his Mira, instead of him doing it himself. Just who is this Mira though? Like, I just need so much more lore on her to understand what is happening in the first episode. Moving on, Mira is quickly caught in the confusion and sucked into a bowl and brought back to the monster, so they can always be together. Don't come at me for the pun, it's from the show. Within the bowl, she is almost in a trance, very calm and easygoing, enjoying the ride, but this isn't the Mira we know. Could this almost be what he expects of her? The easygoing, relaxed woman who has no issues with going to New York with him? Maybe. We see him visibly chuffed, stating, "Now Mira is mine." Ugh, again, how possessive and fucking creepy is this line of thinking? Do we really not see an issue here? He continues to try and finish off all of the other BoonBoomgers. Could this be a sign of jealousy that only he could possess Mira? And even with Mira in his possession, it's still not enough. This gives off jealous partner for sure. Especially when seen by Homura, we see him getting more and more agitated that the monster checked that Mira was okay, rather than finishing off the others first. I must admit, the juxtaposition of a human controlling the monster is so bizarre, and it's what makes this episode so interesting. We can't blame a monster for something bad happening when it's a human literally taking the wheel. Once confronted and his ugliness brought to light, he suddenly cowers in fear, which makes Taya go to save him. But when revealed that he is working with the Hashilians, and also that this is in fact the client from before, we finally get his name, Orono Norio. He screams in rage, charging at Taya, really biting the hand that feeds you, huh? Stating that because of him, Mira was easily influenced and taken away from him. Here we see what he believes to be true, but also as the audience, we can see his inability to comprehend Mira's determination and strength that we have seen so much in this show so far. Mira may be cheeky and quirky, a little clumsy, but never easily influenced to do something that she doesn't want to do, and because of her determination, that is what brought her here. Someone who was dating her should have known that about her, unless his ego was too big. Also, there is no music that plays in this moment, which is a great directing decision. Flashback time! We see the two at school, working on a school festival, and she puffs and squirms to make a red flower in silent struggle, as he almost comments on her mistakes, calling her impressionable, a term for children mostly, someone easily influenced. She says what could she do, but she's glad that he is there too. He smiles back shyly in response. Skipping the flashback to later on down the line, we see them sat down having dinner at a fancy restaurant with steak and wine. It's hinted that they have been dating, but the next reveal will change the dynamic hugely. He announces he got the transfer to New York that he has been wanting, and that she will be going with him as his wife. He will make her happy. This is very quick and dismissive, as when she has a reaction, he is quick to flatten those worries with, "It is fine," not even considering what she wants for a second, expecting her to comply with the role of a woman should. Also, very toxic masculinity here, where he, as the man, says that he will make her happy, not even considering what she wants for a second. In his mind, she of course will say yes to him, but in reality she is actually quite shocked about New York, as if she has no idea about any of this. And this is where I want to bring this question up. Is Mira the problem in this situation? I saw a comment on my last video where someone was stating that it's not all his fault, Mira had no reaction and probably didn't love him, her being a red flag too. And maybe she didn't love him, or it wasn't the same love that he felt, which is honestly not great. But people do change, love changes, and situations change. She wanted to do something for herself that didn't line up with his plan. That isn't a bad thing. How he did not communicate to her his own intentions with New York is the problem here. She had no clue about New York, and you could see the shock in her body language. And when she showed confusion and worry, as I said before, he pushed her worries aside and pushed for marriage instead, which is a huge step that they probably never even talked about, and she probably never wanted. He got carried away with what he wanted. And just to hit the nail in the coffin, we go back to reality where he even states that there is no way she could handle being a BoonBoomger. He has no faith in her ability to do something as grand or as heroic as being a hero. Her place in his mind is by his side in New York. What a disrespectful person he is. But of course, Tyre won't let anyone talk like that about one of his team, and confronts him with what he should have been doing with his own life, not interfering in another one, which hits hard. This leads him to have a total breakdown as he now is confronted by a voice of reason, and in a last-ditch effort to stay strong to his resolve, he tries to attack Tyre once more. This only shakens the monster and Mira awakes. Now, Mira starts fighting her way out, showing her determination and resolve, literally shaking up the monster herself within her confines as Norio watches on to her defiance, asking her why. Let me repeat that. All he wants. Sorry to tell you this, but she don't want or need you no more. And probably never has, to be honest. He doubles down, shouting, "Why do you keep fighting it?" Shocked at her actions. And his ugliness and toxic thoughts literally manifest to chaos. As the controller explodes in his hands. This is actually a great simplified representation of how bundled up emotions can sometimes explode out in unexpected and violent ways. The monster, now confused and without a remote, starts attacking Norio as well in the overload. And finally, Norio has to look at himself and what he has caused, explained perfectly by Homura. Quite bluntly, I must admit, but very much needed. Soon after, Mira is released by the combined efforts of her friends, but that isn't enough for her. After being stalked, stolen, isolated, she is pissed, and rightly so. Here we see the mighty Mira in all her glory. She fights with no break, attack after attack, not stopping for any pleasantries with the other guys, Violet even calling her chaotic. and I would not expect anything less. Norio watches on in complete confuddlement, says, "That's Mira."
あんなミラ見たことない
She is wildly pushing to her limit, attack after attack, and this sparks a memory. Another flashback shows Mira as we know her, determined, creative, persevering for their project, when Norio is the one concerned on finishing in time and was wanting to give up. Mira says no. She's going to do it and continues to work hard, never ever faltering for a moment. In this flashback, he doesn't smile at the end as she walks past him, and he watches on with a look of disappointment, feeling unneeded. Now, when I saw this episode, I was convinced that he had just remembered the whole situation differently. But my companions, Marcus and Thomas, saw it differently. The same memory, but later on in the creation process. Either way, it doesn't matter, as it shows that his memory of her in the past was morphed to what he wanted to remember, and not the whole truth. He remembers her as a weaker person who needed his help, who was easily persuaded and influenced, someone he pitied. But in reality, though it may have started like that, how it ended was him not being needed at all, almost ignored, as she powered through with determination to finish when he was the one giving up. This flipping characterization is so intriguing, as he saw her as the weak one, but in reality he was seeing his own weakness, which can be scary, and probably why he forgot that moment. He admits that maybe he was the only one who thought she couldn't handle it. And yes, you were. You were the only one who didn't really see Mira for who she was. And as she jumps and slices down on the monster who kept her captive, I could not be prouder. Even when Violet goes for the kill, she gets in his way and complains about kill stealing. And they finish him off together as equals. It goes to Megazord time as Norio just watches from below in astonishment, finally looking at her as she is again. To finish this episode off, we are back at the airport, Taya dropping off Norio. Taya asks him if he is sure that he doesn't want to see her, but his response is surprising. He says it's fine. He describes her as a real sweetheart and easily influenced, but nothing can stop her when her mind is made up. That's what he loves about her, and he walks away. No argument, no manipulation, just walks away. He accepts that it's over and moves on with a heavy heart as we scoot over to Mira, looking happy and working hard as we know her to be. At the very end, he was able to accept that she was no longer his. By showing her strength, she was able to change Norio. I believe that to be true. It's just very inspiring. What an episode though. This show has banger episode after banger episode, but this is the first one that hit me in the heart as a woman and someone who has dealt with the issues of being a woman like this. The writer Natsumi Moriichi has done an incredible job here, seeming to be a new writer for Sentai with a few writing works before with anime. They also wrote episode 7, the debut of BoonBoomger, episode 14, Ishiro's trip to the aquarium, episode 20, this one, and then also episode 21, the debut of Zoom Zoom Shock Blaster, and Boon Red 119, the following episode so far. I'm so excited to see more episodes written by Natsumi, as this could be the start of something incredible for Sentai and Toku in general. But Natsumi, please hear me out. In a way, I hope that Mira doesn't get in a relationship. Shocking, I know. And what I mean by that is that I don't want her to play the typical role of the pink of the group, where she just plays the role of romantic interest for Red. With this episode, and probably all the episodes so far, she has proven to be such an independent character that she doesn't need romantic feelings for anyone to succeed. And I think that's what people love about her. She is quirky and enjoyable to watch, but she's also independent and strong-minded, determined, and so much more. She never wanted to get married or go to New York, and that first episode shows that she will defy all that was set up for her by others. She is paving her own path, and if she chooses to marry, it's on her own terms. This isn't a Zelda and Link story, or a Mario and Peach story, that the man saves the princess. She can do the saving herself as an equal. Calm Sanity said, I 100% agree that Toku tackling these issues of how relationships can turn toxic but people can learn is amazing. Especially since it's primarily a male audience, they can learn this lesson is also great. Also, Comfy Ghost says, it's nuanced depiction of not just Mira being strong in the face of toxic masculinity, but where the masculinity came from and what made it toxic, how good intentions can turn into harmful acts is great. I think the message was shown perfectly, that you can be strong and independent, and that you can learn from your mistakes. And I hope this episode truly inspires all of you to be strong and move forward as better people. Also, if you are in a relationship like this, please think of what you can do for yourself and other people. Look after yourselves out there. Thanks again. Kezza henshin. Matane.